Nick then talked about with Russell Brand how people are saying that Isreal killed Charlie Kirk. And they talked about who, but it's just really interesting this point because obviously Nick is somebody that's been very critical of Israel, and who hasn't, right? When you see the atrocities going off, the human rights violations that are being committed in Gaza, right? Whether or not it's a genocide, you can talk about in the comments. I'm going to go with the credible sources that have called it a genocide, but nevertheless, they're talking about these accusations of who exactly killed Charlie Kirk and why it wasn't Israel. So we're going to play that clip for you now. Here we go.
Well, I have to say that there's always a temptation because the crowd goes one way and always based on instinct, always based on emotion. And even in my case, it wasn't even so much against the left. With my audience, they wanted to rush and blame Israel. That was the first gut reaction of my audience. And in this case, I said, I'm certainly not reluctant to blame Israel for one thing or another if there's evidence. I mean, based on who I am, I said, but you know, he was a pro-Israel guy. So, I mean, that would be like saying if Ben Shapiro got taken out, God forbid, and people said Israel did it. I don't, that would be pretty far-fetched, you know? But that was kind of the rush to judgment on our side was it's the same suspect. It's always the same culprit. And I guess for me, it always just goes back to you have to tell the truth. You know, I think that a lot of people, and that seems obvious, but what a lot of people find themselves doing when they talk about these things is they want to satisfy an emotional craving or an emotional state. And you really need to be careful. Am I telling the truth? Am I being objective? Am I looking at the facts? Or am I saying these things to satisfy something that I'm feeling right now? Because I think that's what a lot of people are doing. Another thing that they do is they tend to fall back on this kind of heuristic level thinking or like a rule way of thinking where they say something bad happens. Oh, well, Israel is implicated when bad things happen. Or, a right-wing person got shot. It came from the left. We have to get away from that kind of heuristic-based thinking and think more in terms of maybe zoom out and get a broader sense of perspective. And I think in terms of second and third order effects. We have to be a little bit smarter than just kind of like our first gut reaction. It's like we just said a moment ago, you know, yes, everybody's first impulse is people are making us unhappy, punish them. People are saying these things, we got to go after them. We have to think, though, what is the knock-on effect? What's the chain reaction? Okay, we punish these people. What do they do next? What do they do in a year? What do they do in 2 years? What does the government take away from this? What could be justified down the road? We always have to be a little bit smarter than we want to be in a moment like that. But that takes some patience. It takes time to develop that sense.
He put that brilliantly. When you think about this, I mean, this is true. I had people come to me and say, hey, you know, do you think Israel killed Charlie Kirk? And I started to see this opinion online from people like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, a little bit lighter. But Candace just went out and said it. And it never clicked in my head. You hear Max Blumenthal going on Tim Dillon talking about, yeah, and Netanyahu was pressuring Charlie Kirk behind the scenes, blah, 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 offered to put $150 million into Turning Point USA, and he refused it, and they were angry, and they thought he was going to turn against them, so... And they kind of don't say the quiet part out loud, except for Candace. She just appears to be doing that lately. But Charlie Kirk was their top guy. Charlie Kirk had the youth. Charlie Kirk was the only chance of having the American right-wing Gen Z young people have a favorable opinion of Israel. He was so pro-Israel. He, even after the Iranian bombing, he went out, and even though it was publicly known that he was still a big supporter of Israel, privately it was reported that he was very furious at Trump. But then after that, he even publicly came out and said good on Donald Trump for bombing Iran. So he was one of their top guys. The idea that Israel now is in a better place than they were now that Charlie is dead is really, really dumb. And it doesn't come from a good place. Like Nick is saying, you can't blame everything on Israel. You have to understand what'll happen when you zoom out. Like, what's going to come from this? What's the government going to do to justify this? Like, how are they going to justify implementing something now for their benefit? like a Palantir, for example, like having a collection of people in a database. Because now you have people that are publicly critical of Israel, and what are they going to justify that for? They're going to justify it for anti-Semitism laws. Like, we've already seen this put out in Congress. People have proposed it as a law, as a bill. And so he makes a really good point. And again, on Candace, it's that stereotypical low IQ anti-Semite thing. It's like, this woman will say and do anything for clicks, it appears. And we're going to talk about that too, to transition in a second. But Nick made a great point, and good on Russell Brand too for having him on. He's been on this generational run where he's been on almost every mainstream podcast, mainstream political news show. He only has, obviously, the big ones left, like Theo Vaughn, Joe Rogan. I don't think that he's going to go on Impulsive. I don't think he'll be on Flagrant, but we'll see. But I mean, like, he only has a couple more. We'll hopefully see PBD in the future, because that'll be very interesting. But yeah, so that's probably the show. Yeah, we'll do this tomorrow. It's the show. So thank you everybody so much for all the support. A subscribe, a like, whatever you got to do in the comments. Very much appreciated. We are also offering memberships now, 2 tiers that you can directly support the show, and you can even interact with the show as well, and it'll be shown on the episodes. So thank you very much. Have a good one, and yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.